mischief done! No, die!
The forces of Camellia revolt against their allies in the kingdom of Hortensia on December 5 of the new Holy Era. While his Camellia Knights and an army of magical monsters wreak havoc on the capital, Duke Rugus Camellia turns into a werewolf and kills the king of Hortensia and a few of his Knights Templar. After losing an eye in the conflict, Maurice Baudelaire just makes it out alive, giving Fernando Albert's sword to his son Alfred and a young boy he saved by the name of Marius. Hortensia makes it through the uprising, but with the king dead and the princess Mariel missing, a young boy named Charlotte becomes Hortensia's new ruler. After 2 weeks have passed since the loss of their loved ones, Alfred and Marius start working with Maurice to prepare for their retaliation against Camellia. 4 years later, Alfred and Marius engage in their first significant combat with Hortensia soldiers, but they are attacked by a seasoned Camellia archer unit under the command of Roy Bachelot. Roy easily defeats Alfred and Marius with his custom bow, but retreats when Maurice intervenes. As the days went by, people began to acknowledge that the monster was real. Wholly new era knights start to emerge. The Green Goblin engages them in combat. Together with Maurice, Alfred takes down the Goblin. According to Maurice, fighting the monsters is a knight's responsibility. According to Alfred, a lord has the power to both protect his subjects' lives and sit back and watch them perish. Alfred also predicted that they would face Camellia once more. Maurice inquires about Marius, and Alfred responds that he will grow stronger and surpass Roy of Camellia. Maurice discovers that Marius always goes on monster patrols with Alfred after Alfred claimed to have given him a crucial mission. While on their mission, Nonoria, Moru, and Marius went to the cemetery. Marius is concerned that Alfred gave her a man's position. Both of them placed flowers atop graves. Nonoria reveals that she frequently visits Fernando, his wife Hortensia, and his daughter Burr to offer prayers. 4 years have passed since the deaths of Nonoria's relatives, she claimed. She was taken in as a maid by Fernando before he died, and they welcomed her with open arms. Nonoria and Burr were the same age at the time, and they got along great right away. Due to her fragile constitution, Burr must spend every day in her room. Belle's carriage was caught in a landslide one day and fell off the edge of the mountain. Because of the way Burr died, Nonoria makes a commitment to do everything in her power to prevent Alfred from feeling lonely. They both head to the village, after Marius also stated that she would do the same. Nonoria inquires as to the Lord's timeline for dispatching the Tron Cavern monsters when they encountered Connie and Doris playing outside. Nonoria asks where Tron Cavern is located, to which Connie responds that he is unsure. Connie reveals that Tron Cavern is based on Magonian legend, and that the spring inside Tron Cavern is home to a shape-shifting monster. The monster says Connie can change into a dragon, snake, or even a huge wolf. Marius remembers when a huge monster named Duke killed her father. Princess Mariel changed her name to Marius on the advice of Maurice. Marius's attention is diverted, so Nonoria inquires as to whether there is a problem. Marius responds that it is nothing, and Connie says that there are times when he wishes he could see the monster. It is absurd, says Doris. There is no way such a monster could exist. Connie frowns as he looks at her, disappointed that she believes he is fabricating stories. According to Doris, the priest claims that all myths about Magonia are untrue. While the two are still arguing that it is not made-up stories, Alfred and Maurice returned. Tron, according to Alfred, is too dangerous for kids to visit alone because it resembles a labyrinth. Connie is adamant that he wants to witness the monster's evolution. She's already seen one of them change. Marius wanted to tell me. She then changed the subject and reprimanded Alfred for deceiving her by posing as her escort. Despite the fact that Charlotte is the current monarch of Hortensia, the Pope is able to assume parental responsibility for him due to his age. George asks Maurice to look into a village that has been quarantined and is populated by monsters that look human. Alfred and Marius are brought to the village by Maurice, where they encounter Deflote Danois, a former bounty hunter, and a zombie-infested community, until Maurice reveals that the bodies were not those of the deceased villagers with whom Deflote grew up. Deflote does not trust them. Deflote says that he was born in the town. The Pope quarantined the village to stop the spread of a plague, so the priest led the village in a prayer until he was the last man left alive. His father was the head priest and hated that he left. The ecclesiastical knights threatened to burn what is left of the village shortly after discovering the priest's diary, but then a huge monster appears. Marius holds the monster using a flower that Deflote left so that everyone can kill it. Later, Deflote both makes the decision to join the group as they seek to determine whether George betrayed them to the church. The Diarehan Empire has started probing Hortensia's defenses now that Camellia is no longer allied with it. With the exception of 2 Diarehan children, everyone in the merchant caravan that Alfred and his group come across has been brutally slaughtered. They decide to accompany them to Hortensia's capital. George informs Alfred and Maurice at the capital that he had nothing to do with the ecclesiastical knights' attempt to murder them. The 2 children from earlier, Saria and Elva, summon monsters and attack the main cathedral, demanding the Pope hand over a relic that Rugis gave them order to find. With the Pope's assistance, Alfred and his allies are able to defeat the demonic ghosts guarding the cathedral and captures the twins. A massive dragon, the Salamander of Magonian legend, breaks into the cathedral at once, but Didier Viardot, a Black Knight, kills it quickly with his powerful weapons. The Salamander escapes the cathedral with the twins and settles down in Camellia territory before changing into Theresia. George in the meantime informs Maurice that Didier and the Pope had the power to send the knights to burn the village without his knowledge. Adelheid was supposed to take over the Olivier dominion after Leon Olivier passed away during the rebellion. Instead, the church turned Olivier into a vassal state under Hortensia by using the recently crowned King Charlotte. When Alfred's party tries to meet with Adelheid to use her as leverage against the church, Didier and a number of knights show up to have Adelheid detained on suspicion of treason against Hortensia. When Camellia unexpectedly launches an assault on Olivier's port, Marius and Deflote prepare to respond, and Alfred is reluctant to raise his sword against Hortensia in order to fend off the invaders. Didier's knights, Alfred's group, and Adelheid's forces band together, with Roy making a surprise return to the battle. Midway through the battle, however, Roy mysteriously withdraws with the rest of his forces. After the battle, Alfred pursues Didier to postpone the arrest of Adelheid. In other places, Duke Rugis claimed that he only intended to use Olivier to stage an invasion in order to strengthen Adelheid and create friction between her forces and Hortensia. But Roy and Theresia think there was another reason for his choice. A princess was allegedly shielded by a giant, according to a legend that Marius tells Deflote. A young woman claiming to be Princess Mariel has been spotted on Juin Island, says Alfred and Maurice as they arrive. They see the young woman speaking to her volunteer army when they get to the island. Afterward, the young woman learns that the church is looking for her. Saria and Elva have also arrived on the island in the meantime. The young woman, whose real name is Marie, confesses that she and her childhood friend Jim made up her identity in order to give the islanders hope when she is later confronted. Marius decides to assist her as a result. Marie shares with Marius how Jim has always protected her when they are alone. Jim then concurs with her decision to tell everyone the truth. When they do this, Saria and Elva attack them, but when the pretend giant gets close to Marius, it vanishes. Marie and Jim thank Alfred's group for helping them the following day. Marie also requests that Marius send a message to the real princess. Alfred is praised by the village's elderly hags, who also mentions that Fernando's son is good for them. Daniels believes that there is a problem in the village of Cocon. Nonoria is able to purchase 4 different kinds of herbal remedies. She is concerned that they will quickly run out. Daniels returned and informed Nonoria that he was going to the village of Cocon. Nonoria makes the remark that she believed the village to be deserted. Daniels responds that he will go and find out, because it is just a rumor. When he gets there, he'll also buy some herbs for medicine, he said. Arriving together with Marius is Alfred, who had agreed to go with him. Daniels believes he can succeed on his own. Alfred claimed he is acting in the best interests of the community and is worried about Cocon village. Marius remarks that it is too strange for the entire village to be abandoned all of a sudden. She has never traveled with him, and Donoria is concerned. But because the journey will be lengthy, Alfred worries about her security. The following day, they set out and arrive at the village of Cocon, which is located close to the mountains. Daniels is concerned about whether the rumors about the village are accurate as they decide to walk. They noticed ecclesiastical knights as they were about to enter. No one is able to enter because they are blocking the door. One of the villagers who try to pass is instructed to turn around. The knights disclose that flooding has left the Cocon village deserted. No one is permitted to pass according to the knights, as it is too dangerous for people. The old man inquires as to where he will obtain the healing herbs. They warned him that he would come back without anything. The elderly man is concerned for the villagers' lives because the majority of them are ill and their lives are in danger, but the old man decides to return to the community. Alfred and others are nearby, hiding. Daniels is aware of another hidden entrance. Alfred believes Daniels is joking when he tells Marius and Alfred to follow him. He says that he used to trade with the Cocon village and that he is very knowledgeable. Daniels claimed that the village of Cocon is full of shortcuts. He appears to be lost as they pursue him, and Marius queries whether he is certain of this. Daniels succeed in discovering the entrance, and they discover that everything was a lie. The village didn't flood. Everything is running smoothly, and it isn't even deserted. One of the villagers is questioned by Daniels Marius about the state of the village. He speaks about the 2-year-old incident. Unexpectedly, some ecclesiastical knights descend upon Kokon village and seized control. They display a notice announcing their decision to turn the church and village over to the Orthodox Church. They established a checkpoint at the village's entrance and then completely locked down the area. One of the strongmen appears. Alfred and the others are asked if they are disobeying the Orthodox Church. The person identifies himself as Adele, a former priest. Adele, in Marius' opinion, is attempting to con them into believing him. Adele describes his background, the reasons he became a priest, and how he is atoning for his sins. He explains what the Orthodox Church was doing to the community in their fight against the Pope and the authorities. Danios and the others decide to save the village, but after defeating them, Didier was able to capture them. With her neck, he is supporting Marius in midair. A month later, Lucan de Luc, a friend of Alfred's, informs Alfred and de Float that Marius will be put on death while they are at the Fairy Tour prison. Maurice appears later to assist Alfred and de Float in escaping. When Didier shows up, Marius is questioned, and he admits he knows she is actually Princess Mariel. He then acknowledges that he had kept some of her early memories in a safe place. She is saved by her friends and allies just before Marius is put to death. After that, when Marius tells Alfred who she really is, he swears allegiance to her. After learning the facts, Rugus declares that a crucial period in Hortensia's history is about to occur. Adelheid in the meantime addresses the anti-church coalition and orders them to gather in Olivier. Later, she leads Alfred's group to meet Lacroix, a witch who reveals that witches are Megonian sentinels. She then makes Mariel relieve her past before the rebellion using her power. Mariel discovers that the tragedy that befell the kingdom was ultimately caused by her father's attempt to revive her mother using a relic. Mariel declines the chance to use it to stop the tragedy when it is presented to her. Lacroix tells Mariel after she awakens that the Pope has the relic and that Mariel has passed her trial. The group decides to travel to the capital as a result of this knowledge. Theresia informs Rugus of this elsewhere. Mariel rallies the Liberation Army a few weeks later. They are ambushed by Syria and Elva as they make their way to the capital. Flegel Dreadnought shows up to let them know that he is prepared for battle, as Didier notifies the Pope that the Liberation Army is on its way to the capital. Roy sends Syria and Elva away in the meantime, making it clear that Camelia won't act in a hostile manner toward the army. They are suddenly ambushed by a group of ecclesiastical knights wielding unidentified weapons. The army discovers the weapons are muskets after defeating the knights. The army notices the Royal Order's elite squad are blocking their way the following day. Then, they learn that Flegel is in charge of those squads. As soon as combat starts, Camelia joins forces with the army. Flegel reveals he removed his grandfather Balthasar, leading his allies to desert him as the elite squad are being overrun. Later on, he challenges Alfred to a duel, which Alfred wins. Flegel is then shot and killed. The Liberation Army arrives in the nation's capital 3 days later. The army is engaged in combat with the ecclesiastical knights when Balthasar appears and declares he has survived. Rugis, Sarya, and Elva travel to the capital in other news. Alfred, de Float, and Maurice discover George is at war with them. When they return to the capital, Maurice chooses to challenge him as a result. Alfred, de Float, Mariel, and Adelheid are confronted and overpowered by Didier in the meantime. Mariel diverts Didier long enough for Alfred to defeat him, just as he is about to shield him. Later, it is made known that the Pope is actually the king's son in secret. Later, the departed relatives of Alfred, Mariel, de Float, Maurice, and Adelheid confront them. The king had attempted and failed to raise his wife from the dead 4 years earlier. The tragedy that befell the kingdom was ultimately caused by the Pope's manipulation of Rugus. While Alfred, Maurice, and Adelheid are battling their family members in the present, they discover that the Pope is in charge of their bodies. In order to free themselves, Alfred and Adelheid reluctantly kill their fathers. After that, a hurt Maurice chooses to remain behind as Alfred and Mariel approach the Pope. Once his battle is over, Nonoria and Q locate de Float in another location. The Pope tells Alfred and Mariel why he's doing what he's doing. When they get to where he is, Rugus offers assistance during the conflict, enabling Alfred and Mariel to overpower the Pope. But when they learn that Rugus was the werewolf who killed everyone, Alfred is fatally wounded. Later, when Mariel is addressing the populace, Lacroix reveals that Mariel broke a taboo when she used a secret power to bring Alfred back to life.